Welcome back, agents, to another A Industries bonus video. Today we'll be going over the Death's Head missile testing performed recently. First up is the Death's Head C. It's an intercontinental cruise missile variant, so I'll just demonstrate how to use it, attacking a target just over the horizon in this case. It has a maximum range of approximately a quarter of the way around the planet, which allows us to hit most nearby bases. Today we'll be using the booster to launch on a pseudo-ballistic trajectory. What that means is we'll be launching up on an angle as if we were heading towards space, but we will never leave the atmosphere. The booster will provide us enough of the speed that we need to get the ramjet operational, and once it is, we will drop the booster and switch to the ramjet for the main part of the flight. Today our simulated target is a nearby DKRMK base. Notably, it's one we failed to assault recently. Because we're still heading up on this pseudo-ballistic trajectory, we don't want to give up the fairing just yet. We're going to get a lot of heat, so because we're going on such a range, we still want to take direct control and increase the speed that we're going. If we popped that fairing just through regular staging too soon, then we would risk damaging the missiles. If we were to launch on a normal attack, we could just engage the missile guidance immediately when we first launch, and then it's just a matter of staging. When the boost runs out, when they're ready to do the next bit, the vehicle handles a lot better when it's not carrying all those tons of fairing on the front, but it does benefit from having them as a heat shield at this kind of speeds. We're currently watching this in real time. Some of the missile launches we'll watch in accelerated mode, and some will watch in real time, just so you can get an idea of how they behave. The cruise missile, as you can see, is traveling quite fast, so we're just going to watch it as it goes. The island is coming over the horizon now. Our target today will be one of Twitchy's turtles. Set it as a target. Now, we'll be demonstrating 3 delivery mechanisms, the A, B and C Death's Head missiles, and 2 warheads, the Death's Head and the Death's Blossom. The Death Blossom missile head was actually a suggestion by one of the agents who views these videos, so if you have a suggestion, do feel free to make it. I won't know about it if you don't make it, and worst thing that could happen is I could say no, and rescind your breathing privileges. Just coming into visual range. Our speed is slowing down enough that we can think about jettisoning this fairing soon. You'll notice it's starting to have trouble keeping the nose up. As we slow down, our engine becomes less efficient and drag becomes thicker, so the effect of that huge nose piece interferes more and more. And this is the final stage, as you can see. Pretty clean aerodynamically. Just over 20 kilometers out now. Now, just taking note of the speed, coming in, diving for some more speed, and getting ready to release the missiles. The Action Group 1 will disengage the missiles. And the Action Group 2 that I've just hit there will engage the missile guidance system. I'm no longer in control. You'll notice on the front we've got a nose cone full of explosives. Those have quite the impact, but they have some issues when hitting the ground very hard. So rather than drop that girder which we had mounted those cruise missiles on, we keep it to crash into the ground with. As long as it hits first, then the nose cone doesn't hit nearly so hard when it hits the ground, and has a much higher chance of working properly. In this case, we score a direct hit, it returns control to me, so I just nose towards the ground. That destroys most of the remaining pieces of debris, with the last large explosion from that nose cone. Alright, next up is the Death's Head B. B is a ballistic missile. This is your standard ICBM, like you generally think of when you think of a intercontinental warhead. The trick with this missile is to launch as if you were going to launch into space. The very topmost part is identical. It's a sort of short-range cruise phase, which allows us to simply land the ICBM within about 400 kilometers of a target and change direction and cruise towards it. That allows us to, make a reasonable margin of error. Alright, we'll just coast a bit. Now we have quite a high apoapsis. This lets us aim pretty neatly by not picking up too much speed initially. It allows us to turn our direction of motion, although we're not planning to. In this case, we are aiming for somewhere pretty much directly opposite us, launching from round range and aiming for Black Crags. Black Crags is another twitchy base. That's a funny coincidence. So the way I find easiest to do this is simply aim right at it and then get about halfway there. Now you're halfway there, look at how much you've gone off axis and correct by that much. So we're off by a small amount to the left, we want to be off by a similar amount to the right, and that should put us pretty much on a working trajectory, although we could possibly use a little more speed for hitting our target neatly. It's not necessary. Like I said, we do have a cruise missile stage, so what we'll be doing is just getting close enough. Now, hang on to your upper atmosphere part here. The bit you see with the fins and the air brakes, we're going to use as a source of significant drag to make sure we slow down fast enough that we don't overheat too badly. The air brakes work quite well at emitting heat when they're extended. They do work fairly well at emitting heat when they are retracted too, but the problem with that is they have a tendency to emit heat to whatever they're near. So if they're closed up like that, then they will overheat the tank that they're connected to, which will be a nuisance for us. This particular version has a design flaw which I've since fixed, where the long coasting phase that you see here, combined with no battery charging capabilities on the missile, means that the probe body ran out of power. I've since added an additional battery so that it doesn't have a chance for that to happen. But for this flight, I simply disabled the probe body and enabled it when I was ready to use it again. Now you'll see the heat's starting to come up. Once it gets to a certain point, we want to engage the air brakes. It's just a matter of balancing the brakes. Because we're undershooting, we want to use them as minimum as possible. We just don't want to overheat everything. If we lose this back compartment, then we'll end up just flying off with the remainder of the front fairing and risk overheating it. I'm trying to gain a little more height here, just to drag our path a little further, but it's not working especially well. You'll see that even at these speeds, it's capable of gaining some heat, but it's backed off quite a lot, even now. So we disengage, activate the drone core because I didn't have a battery at this point, disengage the fairing, set our target, and engage the engine to head over there. We're a little lower than an optimal trajectory, but if I'd been a little more careful with aiming in the first place, it wouldn't have been an issue. This is a good way of showing you just how far you can be off your target and still successfully hit, though. I'll skip ahead a bit here. Alright, so I'm turned into final approach there. You'll notice I still have quite a lot of control over the vehicle. Now we're reducing our speed and lowering the nose, ready to fire off these missiles. We are coming in unusually fast. Cruise missiles look like they're going to drop on top of it, basically. They seem to have bypassed it. At least the core is going to hit. And it explodes due to bug, like one of my defenses at Bitsandy did the other day. Well, I suppose that's fair. I guess it's below the ground, it fell through the floor. Range proved the point though. Finally we have the Death's Head A, or Astro. This simple missile core is intended to drop from a station or ship sitting in orbit and pretty much just drop a similar warhead nearby. Now, unlike the Death's Head B and C, it has much less control once in the atmosphere. It's mainly designed to slow down from orbital velocity with the minimum number of parts, expense, and, well, really risk. You'll have to land within a reasonable range, within about 50 to 100 kilometers, so that the cruise missiles in this warhead will hit. This missile, because of the difficulty in aiming it accurately, doesn't have a Death Blossom variant. The trick to entering the atmosphere is to keep it side back. This allows the heat shield to absorb most of the heat. The heat shields we use for these missiles are already all used up. Those missiles, those heat sinks are quite a bit cheaper than brand new ones, and they're sufficient for the task, so that's what we'll use. The main restriction we have with these missiles is the length. Because they need to fit into a bay on a station or ship, they can't be nearly as long. They need to fold over and stack against one another. What we do have available is width. Future versions may have small side jet engines, which allow them to perform a similar function to the existing Death's Head range. So you'll see we're coming up on our target now. We maintain quite a smooth profile so long as you keep your heading. If you rock off like that, then you will catch in a different heading. So make sure you rock the right way, because it's going to start pushing you that direction. Now, this awkward angle that the pod stabilizes on is the primary way it slows down. At a certain point, it'll reach a speed where its drogue parachutes can deploy. So keep an eye on them, be ready to activate them as soon as it's safe to do so. There we are. Then disengage the fairing and fire the missiles at the target. Penguin Alt Empire lad test today. Fly along the floor. As you can see, we're well within range for these missiles. Previous variants of the Death Head, because of their accuracy, they typically used to use cluster bombs. The cruise missile variants have been selected because they're much larger and much heavier. Anything that we can do with cruise missiles, we can do with just about any ordnance. So that should be what we design around. Here we go. Let's get the sound back on so you can hear our approach. Penguin Alt Empire lad is quite viable anti-air defense. Well armed with many turrets. As you can see, it's taken down one of the... looks like only one direct hit with cruise missiles. One into the base and one successfully shot down. But that's certainly disabled. Right. Now on to the Death Blossom. You have Veka Raisa, I hope I said that correctly, to thank for both this design, this idea, and for this video. If I hadn't been reminded about this, I probably wouldn't have gone through it and finished the Death's Head until I actually needed to use it. But now I have several missiles available. So here we have a missile launched from Bitsandy in a nearly identical trajectory to the Death's Head. This is the first variant of this I tried. So you can see that it does have a pretty similar range. It's actually lighter in spite of carrying a lot of Hellfire missiles here. Now that first pass was a little close for my comfort, so I did spend a while working on it, but look at that. The final variant is demonstrated here, just aiming at a flag. So the Death Blossom is quite effective. Perhaps overkill effective, but still a damn lot of fun developing that. Well, thanks for watching, guys. Once again, any suggestions, feel free to leave them. See you next time.